there we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo. I thought I hit the button and then it looked at it. Nope, I didn't. Hey, my name's Bo, and welcome to the Morning Devotion. It's at 9 o'clock and 9:02 right now, so 2 minutes late. Yep, 2 minutes late. Yesterday, insane fever. Holy cow, man. Woo! Wow, was I down and out. I couldn't go to the fellowship because, man, that wouldn't have been a real nice thing to do, to subject everybody to some major fever. Because I was achy as everything. But I just slept all day. Just piled it up, slept, and felt much better by the nighttime. So, yesterday got a great sleep, feeling better. But one thing I noticed when you're home and you're kind of in bed and you're kind of watching different things, man, no matter what you watch, there's always ads on them for the up and coming election. And, usually there is, but my heavens, man, these ads just, man, they're insane. I don't know if, I can't make heads or tails out of them. All I know is everybody's evil and everybody's radical. And so, there you go, So it's like, is Jesus on the ballot at all? So let's vote for him. So good seeing everybody. Hey, just a reminder too, shoe boxes are due next Sunday, right? That's what Marcia said, I think, on the comment corner. Next Sunday, which that's what I thought, on the 13th, I wanted to say. Let me look at the calendar. Yeah, the 13th. So, that's when they're due. We're getting all of ours together now. I'm kind of putting together some cool things in mind. I'm kind of excited. They're, a great thing about a shoebox that goes overseas into the hands of a kid for Christmas is that you can kind of customize your shoebox, and that's kind of neat. So anyway, morning devos are about getting in the Word. We go through the Bible just book by book, verse by verse. It's definitely a concept that a lot of people just can't seem to get under their belt. But it's a pretty simple one. It's simply just reading, reading chapter by chapter. And a lot of times in a devotion, we want to read a real small thing because it's quick, right? It's like, you just get a quick little boom and that's it. But a lot of times we don't really expand our knowledge of the Bible, right? By just doing a little devotion, meaning we don't get the context, we don't get the history, we don't understand people, the narratives, that the flow of the Bible. And half of really getting it is just going through it, is just realizing how God is moving within time, matter, and space. How the eternal God moves within time, matter, and space. And it's hard to grab that if you just are getting a Devo, a little short thing, a little line, Nothing's wrong with that. It's cool. It's good. I like that. Oswald Chambers or something like that. You pick up a little devotion book and you read through it. It's cool. It has some good things to say. But it's not the Word. Sometimes it's best just to go through the Word. So chapter 26, 1 Samuel 26, that's where we're at. We're almost done with this book, by the way. So it says, now some of the men of Ziph came to Saul at Gibeah to tell him, David is hiding on the hill of Hachilah, which overlooks Jeshimon. Now, Saul, this is like, did we just read this? This sounds so familiar already, right? Some people come to Saul and say, hey, guess what? David's over here. Well, let's see if Saul changes his tune from what we read before, okay? So what we read before was that Saul went to attack David. So Saul took 3,000 of Israelite elite troops and went to hunt him down in the wilderness of Ziph. Oh man, God help me. So repetitive, so repetitive. One thing about life is it's daily, right? It's repetitive. And my areas of sin are repetitive. And it's funny, people always say, hey, well, we shouldn't have habitual sin in your life. No habitual sin. okay, well, what's your sin called then? If it's not habitual, what is it? Like, do you have pride in your life? Is that not habitual? Like, do you have greed? Do you have jealousy? Do you have envy? Do you have strife? Do you have contentions? Do you have lustful inclinations? Um, you know, what are they? In your life? And it makes me laugh a little bit, because all of us we love to, man, I tell you, pride gets the best of us, right? Oh no, I got no, me, habitual sin. Oh no, not me. I don't repeat a matter. No way. Not me. No, I that's those people over there. Those people over there do that, but not me. That's kind of how it goes a lot of times, right? But a lot of us, I hate to say it, but we're a lot like Saul. And we need salvation, right? Totally. And we need a cleansing, and we need to be changed, and we need to be renewed, so that we don't fall into same old patterns over and over, that we do learn to move away from certain things, right? Now, it's not going to be a total completion of everything. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be things we're working on. Why? Because God is perfect. And we're striving there. We're going to be sanctified. We're going to be made complete, but we're not there yet. It's a process, and it's going to be one that Jesus is going to do in and through us through the work of his Holy Spirit. But can you see yourself in a little Saul here? He takes 3,000 troops and he goes and hunts them down again. And so Saul encamped along the road besides the hill of this area where David was hiding. And when David learned that Saul had come after him in the wilderness, he sent out spies to verify the report of Saul's arrival. David slipped over to Saul's camp one night to look around, and Saul and Abner, son of Ner, the commander of his army, were sleeping inside a ring formed by the slumbering warriors. "Who will volunteer to go in there with me?" David asked Ahimelech the Hittite, and Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother. "I'll go with you," Abishai replied. So David and Abishai went right into Saul's camp and found him asleep, with his spear stuck in the ground beside his head. Abner and the soldiers were lying asleep around him. So again, David goes and does his stealth mission. See, hey, what's Saul up to? Well, Saul once again is doing what? Taking a nap, sleeping. And his guards are sleeping too. And this is, again, another kind of repetitive idea here, is kind of falling asleep at the switch. Saul and his crew are. The Bible in the New Testament says we're in a spiritual battle, and, that we need to stand, kind of take our stand, against the schemes, the schematics of the wicked one. And boy, is that so true, right? You can't really let your guard down, and you always got to stay very cognitive and very aware of your surroundings and kind of your walk with God. But Saul here is, fallen asleep again with his commanders as well. And so God has surely handed your enemy over to you this time, Abishai whispered to David. Let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I won't need to strike twice. So Abishai says, hey, David, you don't have to do this. I'll do it for you. And, that way you don't feel so bad about killing Saul. Because remember, you could have killed him last time, but you said, hey, you can't really go against God's anointed. Saul was in David's life for a specific reason. David knew that. And David probably had a thankful heart too, an appreciative heart of the opportunities that Saul given David to rise up to be a leader of the army of Israel. And David respected that position Saul had. And so Abishai knows that and says, hey, you know what? Why don't I just stick the spear in his head, man? And let's be done with this. And then you can go on and do your thing. Now, that had to be a little tempting, right? Don't you think? For David to, easily just go, yeah, that sounds right. Now, this is what I get out of this morning, is that there's a lot of things that my brothers and sisters might say to me that seem right. It sounds like a right thing, and it sounds justifiable, I guess. It sounds rational. It makes sense. But yet, it's not the right thing for me to do. And that's something that it could easily be temptation, right? To move in a direction when I shouldn't be going in that direction. David, he could have wiped his hands clean of this and said, Abishai, okay, you kill God's anointed. You go after, you take out Saul. He's been chasing us. He's chasing us repetitively. Hey, he's going to get what's coming to him. He keeps coming after me. This is what's going to happen. He's going to get hurt. And Abishai, go do it. But David's not going to do that. And I kind of like that attitude, that David has, as though it seems like it's the right thing. It's not the right thing. And I got to take a step back. And this happens all the time in our world, right? People rejoice over something. There's war, there's this, there's that. People argue, people are for this, people are for that. It seems like the rivers move real strong, different ways, and you want to, the world wants to follow it, and people kind of get caught up in a movement, and they move that way. But maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's not the direction I'm supposed to be in. Maybe I got to take a step back and think through it more, and maybe I have to go, maybe that's not the right thing to do, So very, especially nowadays with our political, fever that we have, right? The high pitch, man, everything's so screaming in our ears all the time. It seems like the rivers flow real strong. And so it seems very justifiable, but sometimes we have to think through it and go, hey, is this really the right thing to do? So David takes some discernment and he thinks through this, and David says, no, don't kill him, for who can remain innocent after attacking the Lord's anointed one? Surely the Lord will strike Saul down some day, or he will die of old age in the battle. The Lord forbid that I should kill the one who he has anointed. But take a spear and that jug of water beside his head, and then let's get out of here. I like that. David, in a sense, protects Abishai too. Because David's understanding of God's plan and God's ability to judge Saul, Abishai, in a sense, remains untainted from that, vengeance kind of behavior. It's easy when someone wants to take vengeance for all of us to jump on board and kind of go with it. But then we kind of share in it, don't we? We share in someone's behavior instead of maybe being the one to say, hey, no, let's not go that direction. And then maybe the other ones will join in and go, yeah, we won't go that direction either. That's always cool. Someone's got to take a stand. Someone's got to say no, right? Someone's got to move the other direction. And this is what David does. It's kind of cool. He's a leader like that. He's a cool friend leader, man. He's like that friend who really does the right thing, moving in the right direction. Not all the time. This guy had some sexual issues. Don't get me wrong. He had some issues going on. He's got a bunch of wives already going, and but there's other areas of his life where you see where he really does carry some strong leadership skills, which is cool, right? I think that's a lot like us. There's some areas we're super strong in, other areas not so good in, right? And it says, so David took the spear and the jug of water that were near Saul's head, and then he and Abishai got away without anyone seeing them or even walking up, because the Lord had put Saul's men into a deep sleep. Okay, so God is at work here. David climbed the hill opposite the camp until he was in a safe distance. Then he shouted down on the soldiers and to Abner, son of Ner, "Wake up, Abner." "Who is it?" Abner demanded, very similar to what chapter 24. "Well, Abner, you're a great man, aren't you?" David taunted. "Where in all Israel is there anyone as mighty?" So David's really giving him a little shoulder, right? Saying, yo, you're so awesome, you're so mighty, you're so strong, you're so this, you're so that. Guess what? So why haven't you guarded the master, the king, your master, the king, when someone came to kill him? This isn't good at all. I swear by the Lord that you and your men deserve to die because you have failed to protect your master, the Lord's anointed. Look around. Where are the king's spear and the jug of water that were beside his head? Saul recognized David's voice and called out, "Is that you, my son David?" Remember, he calls him son because he is his what? Son-in-law. And it says, Saul recognized David's voice and called out, "Is that you, my son David?" And David replied, "Yes, my lord, the king. Why are you chasing me? What have I done? What is my crime? But now let my lord, the king, listen to his servant." So David now is going to do another similar thing that he's done in the past, where sometimes you might think, oh man, I got to say the same thing again. I got to do this again. Here we go again. And have you ever like been in a argument with like a spouse and you kind of reiterated that kind of idea? Like, here we go again, and you roll your eyes. Already when that happens, man, it's like lost, right? Already when we do that, we're already in the wrong, right? It's like, do you respect your spouse? Do you respect the position, of husband and wife? Do you respect the position of friend or family member? Do you respect the position that someone's in as a boss enough to where we can repeat a matter and not have it be where we treat it so trivially, where we treat it so, without any respect at all? And that's something, man, I know I got to work on a ton, is just that idea of respect, learning how to respect people and be honorable and treat them honorably. And David does this, yeah, he uses some sarcasm with Abner, but Abner's a military guy like David. So it's like David can, I guess harass him a bit, right? They've fought together. But, then when he goes to the king, he repeats the same thing. He says, "Hey, man, can I share with you some things, king? I'm going to share with you." So then he does. He says, "But now, my lord, listen to the king's servant." And he says, "If the Lord has stirred you up against me, then let him accept my offering. But if this is simply a human scheme, then may those involved be cursed by the Lord. For they have driven me from my home, so I can no longer live among the Lord's people. And they have said, 'Go worship pagan gods.' Must I die on foreign soil, far from the presence of the Lord? Why has the king of Israel come out to search for a single flea? Why does he hunt me down like a partridge on the mountains?" So David just lays it out to him like, man, look at what's happened to me. I'm living in foreign lands. I'm not around the tabernacle, right? The tent of meeting, the place of meeting with God. I'm not amongst my crew, my family at all. And man, what a bummer. What have you come out to do? Why are you chasing me? I'm like a flea, right? And I'm like a what? Partridge on the mountains. Not sure what that's all about, but but it doesn't sound like David's thinking much highly of himself. "Here is your spear, O king," David replied. "Let one of your young men come over and get it. The Lord gives his own reward for doing good and for being loyal, and I refuse to kill you even when the Lord placed you in my power, for you are the Lord's anointed one." Now there's a word that's used here that I think is really powerful, and that is loyalty. What is my loyalty like? Wow, that's pretty cool to think about. What's it like at work? What's it like in my family? What's it like in my relationship with my spouse? What's my loyalty like? Where could I be better at being loyal? And notice his loyalty is really, really founded in this idea that God's got a plan and God has Saul in David's life for a specific purpose. Do I really believe that people are in my life and the people that are in my life are there for a specific purpose? Meaning there's some, whether it's for me to recognize something and move away, or recognize something and draw close, whatever it is, but they're there for a specific purpose. God is, he knows what I need. He might need me to be courageous, so he puts something before my path that is tough for me to deal with, so that I learn to be courageous, right? I learn to be brave in a situation when I don't want to, when I want to back down, right? But David sees that God's always working in his life in very detailed ways, so that nothing really just gets by. Nothing just is it's just, it's kind of, it's not of insignificance, but everything is very significant. And so because of that, there's this idea of loyalty to the plan of God, loyalty to submission to the work of God, submission to God's, what he's doing in the world. Maybe I need to submit. God has this for a purpose. Maybe I need to learn how to love people that aren't lovable, doesn't seem very lovable, stuff like that. But you notice, David's riveted on what? The Lord. The Lord gives his reward for doing good. Oh man, that's cool. The crown of righteousness for those who endure temptation, right? James chapter 1. That kind of idea of, doing good, being a good deeder or doer, or I always think of the Wizard of Oz, I forget. Good deed doer, and that's might be a good deed doer. But I like how he says that the Lord gives his own reward. What's God's reward to me? Wouldn't it be best if it's just more of him? Yeah, just more of God in my life. Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the what? Desires of your heart, right? Well, what is my desire? For maybe God to be known? For maybe his fame to be known? For me to know him greater? Those kind of things. But God gives his own reward for doing good. Now may the Lord value my life even as I have valued yours today. May he rescue me from all my troubles. And Saul said to David, blessing on you, my son David. You will do many heroic deeds, and you will surely succeed. Then David went away, and Saul returned. Pretty cool, right? So Saul confesses that when David shares this stuff, he confesses that, I didn't read it, but he confesses in 21. He says, for I have sinned. And he says, come back to the house. I will no longer try to harm you. And he says, for you have valued my life today. And then he says, I have been a fool and very wrong. So Saul does, in a sense, invite David back home and say, hey, I'm not going to pursue you anymore. And I have been a fool. You're going to succeed. And then David went away and Saul returned home. So David didn't just hop on Saul's bandwagon and go, hey, let's go get together. Let's go hang out. Let's go to the pub and have a brew together. It doesn't seem like that happened. David's like, okay, I'll go my way and you go your way. We'll see. Why? Because there's a little bit of hesitancy, no doubt, at this stage. And sometimes we need to be that way with people, right? A little bit of a hesitancy, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I don't know if that's we got to learn from past things. We have to remember past things and make decisions based off past things as well. And so David's doing that. But Saul here once again makes the confession and says, hey, I'm ready to give up on this. And but we'll see, we'll see what happens in this narrative. Saul's life is ending soon, and we will see that. And we'll see David now really moving into his kingship over Israel. So what a long, trying time for these two, for Saul and for David. And it has got to have taken them out emotionally in many ways. All this chasing and running and everything like that, instead of just hanging out at the tabernacle, right? Man, oh man, if we could just stay close to the Lord, stay close to the body of Christ, stay close to those things that are going to help us instead of running everywhere. That's probably where we need to be for sure. So, hey, good chapter. And one of those ones that, again, it's a repeat chapter. It sounds very familiar because it is very familiar to something, but it's a lot like our lives. Time to maybe learn some ways to get out of those old patterns, things like that. Something to be different, The Bible's a lot like life. It's the real deal. So you guys have a great day. Happy Monday. And we'll catch you, Lord willing, tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.